Think for a moment about the Ten Commandments. What immediately comes to mind? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. These are clear foundational pillars of morality that we all recognize. But what about the others? What about the ones we might gloss over, dismiss as less significant, or assume don't apply to us in our modern lives? What if I told you there's one commandment, often recited but rarely fully understood, that holds the key to solving 90% of your relationship problems? A principle so foundational that it can reshape your family dynamics, empower your career, and bring peace to your daily interactions. It's a commandment that promises not just longevity, but profound blessing, yet it's frequently overlooked in its depth and practical application. Today, we're diving deep into what I call the forgotten commandment. Honor your father and your mother. But we're not just talking about your biological parents. We're going to unpack how this ancient truth extends far beyond the nuclear family, revealing a universal principle of honor that can transform every significant relationship in your life, from your boss to your spouse to your children, and even to those in authority over you. If you're tired of relational conflict, misunderstandings, or feeling undervalued, this message is for you. Get ready to see this commandment with fresh eyes, understand its radical implications, and discover how to apply it for lasting peace and blessing. Before we jump in, please hit the like button if you're ready for breakthrough in your relationships. It helps this message reach more people. Comment below with the first thought that comes to mind when you hear "honor your father and your mother," and share this video with someone who needs this relational wisdom today. The Fifth Commandment, a deeper look. Let's read it directly from Exodus 20:12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. At first glance, it seems simple enough. Be nice to your parents, respect your elders. And yes, at its core, it absolutely means that. This is the first commandment with a promise attached, that your days may be long in the land. This promise isn't just about living a long life. It's about experiencing a full, blessed, and flourishing life in the place God has for you. It speaks to stability, generational blessing, and a well-ordered society. But why is this commandment so crucial that God placed it right in the middle of the Ten Commandments, bridging the gap between our duties to God and our duties to humanity? Because it's the foundational principle of all healthy relationships. If you can't get this one right, it's a strong indicator that you'll struggle with respect and authority in every other area of your life. Think about it. Your parents were your first experience with authority. They were God's appointed representatives in your early life. How you learn to respond to their authority, love, and discipline often sets the pattern for how you engage with all forms of authority and relationship dynamics later on. So honor here means more than just obeying. It means valuing, showing deference, holding in high esteem, and treating with respect. It means recognizing their position even if you don't always agree with their decisions. It means understanding that even imperfect parents are due a certain level of honor simply because of the role God gave them. But the spiritual principle doesn't stop there. Beyond parents, honoring all forms of authority. The principle of honoring father and mother serves as a microcosm for a much broader truth, the necessity of honoring all God-given authority in our lives. The Bible consistently teaches us to respect those in positions of leadership, whether in the church, in government, in our workplaces, or even in our homes. Why? Because all legitimate authority ultimately flows from God. Romans 13:1 states, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established." The authorities that exist have been established by God. This is a radical concept in a world that often celebrates rebellion and disrespect. Consider your workplace. Your boss, your manager, the company leadership. They are in a position of authority over you. While we are not called to obey sinful commands, the principle of honor still applies. This means respectful communication. Even when disagreeing, do so respectfully. Diligence in your work, honoring their position by giving your best effort. Submitting to guidelines, following company policies and procedures. This isn't about blind submission, it's about understanding that God has placed structures of authority in our lives for order and blessing. When you honor your boss, you're not just honoring a person, you're honoring the principle of authority that God has established. And surprisingly, this often leads to favor, promotion, and stronger professional relationships. When you honor, you often find yourself being honored in return. Similarly, in our communities, we are called to honor governing officials, police officers, and judges. While we have a right to peaceful protest and seeking justice, the underlying attitude should still be one of honor for the office, even when we disagree with the individual. This spiritual stance cultivates peace and opens doors for divine intervention rather than perpetual conflict. The radical act of honoring your spouse. Now, let's bring this principle closer to home, your marriage. The Bible gives specific instructions for both husbands and wives that reflect the principle of honor. Wives are called to respect their husbands in Ephesians 5:33, and husbands are called to love their wives as Christ loved the church, which inherently involves valuing and honoring them. In a marriage, honor isn't about one person being superior. It's about recognizing the unique role, value, and dignity of your spouse. It means prioritizing their needs and feelings, putting their well-being before your selfishness, speaking highly of them, building them up both in private and in public, listening attentively, valuing their thoughts and perspectives, even if different from your own, protecting their reputation, refusing to gossip or allow others to speak ill of them. When honor breaks down in a marriage, it creates a breeding ground for contempt, resentment, and conflict. But when both partners actively practice honor, even when it's hard, it creates a secure, loving, and thriving environment. It's a radical act in a world that often encourages self-interest. Honoring your spouse isn't just a suggestion, it's a covenant commitment that promises to deepen intimacy and strengthen the very fabric of your relationship. It's an investment in the long-term health and joy of your union. Cultivating honor in your home, honoring your children, and vice versa. The principle of honor also flows in the opposite direction. Parents are commanded not to provoke their children to wrath, but to bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. This implies honoring your children's individuality, their feelings, and their developing personhood. Honoring your children means listening to them, genuinely hearing their concerns and perspectives, respecting their boundaries, appropriate for their age and maturity, acknowledging their achievements, celebrating their efforts and successes, correcting with love and dignity, disciplining without shaming or belittling them. When children feel honored by their parents, they are more likely to thrive, to respect themselves, and, importantly, to respect their parents and other authority figures in return. This creates a virtuous cycle of honor within the family unit. And children, too, learn to honor. While we naturally focus on children honoring parents, it's a principle that, once understood, can be taught and modeled. When a child learns to honor, they are learning a life skill that will serve them in every future relationship, from school to friendships to their own future families and careers. This commandment is not just for the young, It's a dynamic principle for all stages of family life. The fruit of honor, blessing, peace, and favor. So, why is this forgotten commandment so powerful? Because honor is the antidote to so many of the relational poisons that plague our society. Disrespect, contempt, rebellion, pride, and self-centeredness. When you choose to live a life of honor, honoring your parents, honoring those in authority, honoring your spouse, even honoring your children, you are aligning yourself with a divine principle that promises profound blessings. The promise of long days in the land isn't just a historical footnote, it's a spiritual principle that ensures stability, peace, and favor in your life. Peace, and see our relationships transformed, one act of respect at a time.